Everyone, today we're going to do the simulation for Tektite-A. So first open up your rocket, close this for now, go under your flight data and select your characterization flight. Once again you'll see all these variables, you can ignore them all, except for simulation data. This is what a properly tuned simulation looks like. You can see that we reach close to our target altitude of it says 255 is our simulated altitude. And you can see that in here, our temperature compensated altitude is around 256. So it's about 3 feet off, which is pretty good. Now, let's see what you're probably seeing. So this is probably what you see. Now that you have your base Canard coefficient of drag, and Canard coefficient of drag ready, and you've entered all of these specs in from Open Rocket, you're ready to tune the control system. So let's go to active control. Let's set our altitude target to 243.84. This is in meters. In feet, this is 800 feet, which is the target for this year. Now your controller gain is probably 1. Now you can see that we have tons of oscillations because you can see that this spiky thing is the Canard angle. This is not good. You can see that we are pretty close, but we're still 6 feet off, and in reality this would probably be much worse since the simulation handles oscillations much better than the real world does. So we need to fix this. First of all, you can see that we stopped tilting the canards about 1 second before the end of flight. Now you want the canards to be tilted as late as possible, because the earlier you start tilting the canards, the more error you're going to build up throughout the flight. So I'm going to have it start tilting a second later. So we can see the fin tilt start time is 2. Let's make it 3. Now you can see that it's tilting the canards all the way the whole time, but it's still too high. So it seems like 3 is a little too far. Let's go to 2.9. Now you can see, perfect. It goes down. Honestly, it goes down a little too early. So I think 2.95 should be better. Yep. You can see that goes down pretty much at the end of the flight. Exactly what we want. Next up, we had those oscillations. You can still see there's like a bit of a spike here, and you can see earlier that it was very spiky when we had it going earlier. You don't want it to be spiky. If it's doing this oscillation spike stuff, this controller gain number is too high. So I'll try cutting it in half. You can still see it's doing that. Try cutting it in half again. Still see it's doing that. Try cutting it in half again. It's pretty good. So I think 0.125 is pretty good. Now we can make this back to 2.9, 2.95 like we had it. And we can see pretty much perfect. Look, once the canards start tilting in flight, they will tilt up to 90 degrees for a while, and they'll trail off at the end when it realizes the air has built up. And 256.23, our temperature compensated altitude is 256.92, so it's like 1 foot off. Pretty much perfect control system. So now we have our control system tuned for flight. One thing, however, you want to note is that the peanut altimeter is not temperature compensated. However, the way it works is it uses air pressure. So when the air is, if you've taken chem, you know that PV equals nRT. Essentially, this says that if it's hot outside, the pressure will be lower, which means the rocket will think that it's higher if the temperature is lower. So essentially, through some math, you can calculate that when it's hot outside, the rocket actually needs to fly higher for the peanut altimeter to think that it went 800 feet, even though it's flying well above 800 feet. Like in this case, I launched once when it was 90 degrees outside. So that means that we actually need to fly a whole, you can see that our target is 243.84. We need to fly 257. So we need to fly over 40 feet higher than what our target altitude is to make up for the temperature. So you can see that when we need to fly higher, that our fins tilt earlier, don't need to tilt as much. So if it's going to be hot outside and you know it's going to be hot outside at the date of your launch, you can make your fin tilt start time a little later. Oops. But let's say that it's actually cold outside. Like, let's say it's 50 degrees outside, which is about 13 Celsius. Now you can see that we need to fly quite a bit lower, 243.4 instead of 257. And you can see that our fin tilt start time is way too late now. So I'll make it 2.7, still too late. 2.5, that looks pretty good. 2.55 might be good. Yep, 2.55 is pretty much perfect. So always make sure to retune your control system start time based on what the temperature is. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your own Tektite-A flights. Make sure to contact me if you have any questions, because this is a pretty complicated process.